After a 13-year wait from the first Avatar film to Avatar The Way of Water, we now only had to wait 3 years to get the third installment, which is Avatar Fire and Ash. So, was it a pleasant or disappointing return back to Pandora? Many people, including myself, will remember that first Avatar film very well because it was the first real experience of what 3D was capable of, creating this world of Pandora. Now, the film, I think, even back then, was a film that didn't need to be as long as it was. It felt like that last battle just kept going on, and that seems to have been repeated in its sequels as well. The Way of Water, I still enjoy that movie in terms of a visual standpoint. I didn't even watch it in 3D. I just watched it in normal 2D screening, but I could still appreciate this world coming to life again. However, the story was nowhere near as strong as the original. We have the family, and I just didn't really care much about that. And the whole Quaritch coming back, through this Avatar, just didn't really sit right with me because I was like, that didn't seem like something that character would have done. So I just didn't really buy that. And so with this one, Avatar Fire and Ash, I'm going into it thinking, well, I'm not really with it in terms of the story. I'm not excited to see what's next for for Jake's family. And I'm really just here to see what it can do in terms of a visual standpoint once again, like seeing it in IMAX 3D. And it was breathtaking. It was superb. I mean, it was, some of the shots are just magnificent. I mean, it really is amazing what they can produce. But once again, the story is where it is let down.
It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times, you stupid monkey.
In this recent Avatar film, as well as The Way of Water, James Cameron has thrown in lots of different elements into his story, whereas in that original film, it was more streamlined with that core relationship of Jake and Neytiri, similar to one of his other big films, Titanic, with Jack and Rose. So he's shown that he can do those relationships, and even in this new film, we have this character here called Varang, who is a great new inclusion. She's a proper loose cannon, and she wants to know how the thunder comes out of the guns. So Quaritch helps her with that, and Quaritch and her come quite close as a pair. And that little relationship there is something which was probably one of the most captivating things in the whole film. Whereas when we go back to Jake and Neytiri and the family, I'm like, oh, I'd actually rather go back with the villains here. I mean, the kids, they were a bit of an issue in the last film. They're a bit dull, a bit boring, a bit annoying with the whole yeah bro thing in the last one. Now the bro died, so at the start of this film they're grieving, and it's not too bad. That's where you can sort of feel that emotion between them. They're going with the Wind Traders because Spider has been told to go back up there, away from the Water Tribe. And that action scene was pretty good in terms of like an opening action scene for the movie. And I think it's really until they get back to the water that's where the film then hits a bit of a wall. It's like, this is a pit stop here. And knowing that you're going to spend a lot more time now with these kids, it's not just that small dose, does drain you a bit, because the brother who's remained, I forget his name, but his story is quite dark, and it never feels like it really gets that proper resolution. We have Kiri, who's the one who's close to Eywa, and she's got the Sigourney Weaver character within her, sort of thing. It's all a bit odd. She has a chanting moment at one point as well, and that was actually where my audience started to laugh at the film. And my audience did that a few times. They did laugh at the film. Youngest doesn't really do a lot, but then we have Spider, who is integral to the plot. He is that human amongst the Na'vi. He's between Jake's and Quaritch's family, and he's used to move the plot along, to introduce new things. And not all of it works, but some of it is actually quite an interesting development. But he does get quite annoying at many moments. Like, he's one of those characters who you're like, okay, I didn't mind him in that moment, but then, oh my god, now he's ruined it. It's like one of those. But when you have the military going after him, it just feels very repetitive because it's the same old thing. Okay, our characters are getting captured once again. It feels like they have a lot of plot armor this time around as well. It's like, how are they being allowed to live here? So it does get a bit tiring, especially when, like I said, this is a very long film. It's 3 hours and like 15 minutes or something like that. And considering that this film is called Avatar Fire and Ash, I was just hoping for a fresh feeling for this universe. Like, my expectations were lower after the second film, which I thought was pretty poor. But I still thought, okay, it's only the third film. We can go, back up in a positive direction. But instead, it feels more like Avatar: The Way of Water plus Ash. I was surprised of how much we saw of the Water Clan again and all the whales, and not seeing more of this Ash Clan's territory and all the different creatures and environment up there. But then thinking about it, James Cameron loves the water, so maybe it's not a surprise. But it feels like a missed opportunity. It feels like we only got that glimpse. It's a bit like in Madagascar where they go to the Fusa territory. It's like, well, that's it. You see a very small bit of that, and that's it. It's like that's the same thing here. But all the potential of expanding this world further feels like it was lost. Instead, the expansion is with a few different things, with the wind traders, a few different creatures, again, in the water, and even the ending of the movie in terms of, we have another big battle. A lot of that is very similar. There's one point where I thought, hold on, that's pretty much the same location you were fighting in the last film, wasn't it? It is slightly different. They do have a slight little remix, but not a lot. What I did appreciate, though, was seeing that conflict between the Na'vi, knowing that that it's not all harmony here on this planet, and also the potential of how the humans could take over Pandora was sort of explored a bit more. So I did enjoy those inclusions, and I think this film has a bit more of the original Avatar in there as well. It feels like a bit of a mix of The Way of Water and the original film, so there is that going for it, and I think that's why I enjoyed this more than The Way of Water. I already mentioned the visuals, but there were a few times where the frame rate seemed to be a bit weird. I don't know what that was about, and also there were a couple moments which felt like it was just full-on video game cutscene. But other than that, I mean, yeah, spectacular visuals, the motion capture work, also that was incredibly impressive. I think there is quite a lot of cheesy dialogue in this movie, which we have seen before as well. Quaritch was kind of a comic relief character quite a bit in this film as well. Some of that worked, actually, because you did need a bit of that, because there isn't really that character in these films, but he did supply that, and I think the pacing wasn't that bad. It was definitely better than The Way of Water, and there's a good few portions of this film I did sit there and enjoy it. Like, this isn't a complete train wreck of a movie or anything. Like, there are quite a few portions of this film where I sat there enjoying myself, but when the story is so derivative and so uninspired, it means that I have no eagerness to come back to Pandora. And it's quite an accomplishment, really, to have made this world unappealing. So it's a shame, really. If there are more Avatar films, I'd love to see someone else write the script and do the story, but I feel like Avatar 4 is just going to be, snow and ice or something, We're going to see some ice Na'vi, and they'll probably go down to the water, and, so we get the water again, and they'll probably freeze the water, and, oh no. So, yeah. And it just feels like, where are we going to go next? If there is a next. I mean, will this make enough money at the box office? As expected, Avatar: Fire and Ash has topped the US box office in its opening weekend. It is down, though, from the Avatar: Way of Water opening weekend takings, which were $134 million, whereas this one was only $88 million. And the reviews have been a bit all over the place. There's been quite a lot of negative ones, but also a few positive ones, like Empire's 4 out of 5 stars. So it's not like everyone's on the same page here, which is interesting. It also, with the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, that's 66% currently, whereas the audience is 91%. So the audience are enjoying it much more. But with these sort of films, they're the films which do have that longevity at the box office. It's got, it's got playing through Christmas, into New Year, into January. And January is known as a pretty poor month when it comes to the films. So it should have those legs needed to get over $1 billion at least. But can it get to the heights of the previous two? Probably not. But can it reach that level where it will, green light Avatar 4 and Avatar 5? So I believe that's what Disney want to do them, but it is a results business. Like, if this film performs terribly, they're going to have to think about it, because these films cost a hell of a lot of money to make. Overall, Avatar: Fire and Ash is one of those films where I think it lands in the middle, because it's not complete crap, but after The Way of Water and how poor that film was, it's lowered my expectations for this film, and I think it's just met those expectations. It wasn't one of those where I was bored at any point. I sort of, I think the pacing could have improved in areas, and it never needed to be over 3 hours long. There's a lot of fluff in this movie that could have been taken out. But if someone was desperate to go and watch it in IMAX 3D and came up to me and said, "Do you want to go and see it?" I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be like I would be with The Way of Water, where I'd be like, "No, you're gonna have to find someone else." This film, I could go in again and watch it. I think it has the issues as I mentioned, but as an IMAX 3D experience, I mean, I don't see many films in 3D these days, but it was quite refreshing to see that for a film which was dedicated for that format. So I think if you are going to see it, definitely do watch it in the cinema, in the biggest screen possible, on the biggest screen possible with IMAX and with 3D. And over the Christmas period in January, I don't know how many other films are coming out which will interest you, but this could be one which it's worth giving a try, especially if you do enjoy the previous ones. If you enjoy the previous two films, definitely do give this one a watch. It is a mixture of the first two, but I think really my main feeling walking out of that screening was, damn, that was a good preview of the Odyssey. Like the Odyssey little prologue we got, which is like 5 minutes, that was superb. The Avengers Doomsday tease, so didn't really bother about that. It already had been leaked for like a week online, and it wasn't really that much of a reveal was expected with that. But the Odyssey prologue, whoa, okay, that got me excited. And obviously the 3 hour movie, which was attached to it as well, was just about fine. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Avatar: Fire and Ash. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and if you want to see another video on screen are a couple of my recent reviews.